Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here are your hosts, Mark Ellison, Shannon Donato, and Jeremy Monahan.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, our very first episode on the brand new Rabbitohs podcast network. Of course, the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast is powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. What If has you covered for accommodation, flights, car hire and more. So if you're looking for a holiday, travelling for business, or you need to get to the game, visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs. What If? It's Aussie for travel. Great to have What If and Audio Technica on board. My name is Jeremy Monahan. I'd like to welcome our co-hosts of the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, Mark Ellison and Shannon Donato. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Great to be on the show for the first time. Can you take us through that introduction again without actually reading it?
No, I cannot. Not episode 1. Get me to about episode 10.
I'm sure you'll be able to do it, mate.
I reckon I'll be there.
I actually really like that intro music. It reminds me of some movies I used to watch when I was a teenager, when I was home alone, and the background music they used to play in those videos. But
what a great movie Home Alone was. Shout out to Macaulay Culkin, one of our early subscribers here on the Rabbitohs Podcast Network. And before I've even introduced him, he's piped up. Welcome, Shannon Donato.
Thank you, Jez. Great to be here. You should have introduced me as the former Italian international, but that's okay. I'm happy with that.
I haven't even got to your bio yet, and I'm going to start with Ello now. 110 first-grade games in your career, Ello. 86 of those for South. First-grade player number 720. You're now the head of football here at the Rabbitohs after many roles within the club. It must be great to have that life here as a Rabbitoh.
Oh, it's been fantastic, Jez. I mean, it started back in the juniors playing in the SG ball, Jersey flag, etc. Came into grade in 83, finished in 91, then had a bit of time away from the club. Had a few different things that I followed in that time. But I've been back since 2004, and it's been an amazing change in the club in the period that I've been lucky to see. That we've gone from a club that was struggling a little bit, and now we're obviously one of the clubs that's one of the top in the game, and everyone here at the club is striving to make sure we stay in that position. And South Sydney, that's just been such a big part of my life, and I've loved every minute of it.
We're going to delve into that a little bit later, with time permitting, as one of our topics here on the Top 4 podcast later on. But Shannon, 78 first-grade games in your career, 19 of those as a Rabbitoh, a proud South Sydney junior. Rabbitoh's first-grade number 863. You've taken a bit of a different path to Ello. He's stuck more to the football side of things, but you've moved into the administration and commercial side of the business as the Chief Commercial Officer. Yeah,
that's right. So I oversee the revenue streams for the football club to ensure that we're able to give back to the community, and everything we do through South Cares there, make sure our members are well looked after, and probably just as importantly, make sure our football team is well resourced so we can continue to have the success on the field that we all want and that we've been having in recent years.
Every second Thursday when payroll comes in, mate, I say a little thank you to you every week for bringing the dollars.
He took the commercial side because there's more lunches involved in that.
Very good.
My whole job's just contra, basically. I don't get paid a wage. I get paid in lunches, and it's many think I'm still way overpaid.
It's great actually to be here in our brand new studio here in the Kingsford offices, and you mentioned food. What about the $9 roast down at the bistro downstairs?
Oh, they're fantastic. But, after about 3 of them each lunchtime, they get a bit rich. But they're absolutely fantastic, Jez. Highly recommend the juniors' food.
I've been a favourite of the Thai beef salad, mate. I've been trying to lose a bit of weight. It's not working, but we'll get there at some stage.
Very good.
You have the Thai beef salad as your entree, don't you?
Well, he has the Thai beef salad in the bistro, then he hops over to Pinocchio's for some bosquiola, and then up to the Chinese for some yum cha. Can't leave anyone out.
Have you had a look in the mirror at home, Jez?
I don't own any mirrors, Ella.
This morning I put my belt on with a boomerang.
Very good. So to give our listeners an idea, the Top 4 podcast, what we're going to do each week is we're going to put forward some topics. which might be around your football careers, might be around your life around football or anything in general really about sport or life. We'll toss up some different things over time, and we'll try and pinpoint the top 4 points that you can come up with in those topics, and we're asking our members and our supporters to submit their own as well. So if you go to rabbitohs.com.au/podcasts, you can find a form on that page there, and you'll be able to enter your own topics that we can discuss. But that's the idea behind the top 4 podcast. But our first item I want to get to, and this will be a weekly thing, is something that you've learned this week. I'll go to you first, Ello.
I think it was just how much I'd missed football over the off season. We were lucky enough to take a sort of a second tier with a young squad down to Griffith to play in a trial, and a really big shout out to Steve Hogan down there who helped organise it. It was all about taking the game back to the country areas and trying to help in the grassroots. We didn't make a cent out of it, but we wanted to go down there, meet the people. The boys went out and did clinics down there. We also took Cameron Murray, Liam Knight and Adam Reynolds down, who did some commercial stuff down there, did a few sportsmen's lunches and things like that, just to try and promote the game down there and get participation levels back where they were. They treated us really, really well. The boys put on a great performance. Were well behaved, which is another good thing we're looking for. But, I'm just looking forward to the season that's coming.
Very good. Shannon, what did you learn this week?
I learned, I knew it all along, but it was sort of consolidated this week when we broke 28,500 members, and that's just how staunch our members are, Given all the challenges they had last year and disruption to their being able to go out and watch their team play for a while there, no members were allowed at the games, then just a few. And, with 250 members in front of the same point last year after such a disrupted year, we're at over 28,500 members now and way on track to break last year's tally. And, just hearing the positive stories from our members that went down to Griffith and watched there, and they're all looking forward to Mudgee, and they've booked in droves in thousands to go out there. It came home to me just how staunch and solid our members are, and how fortunate we are to have such a strong family of members, sponsors at the Rabbitohs.
And they always have been, haven't they, Shannon? I mean, even when we were struggling, at times the members have always stuck solid, and they knew we'd come out the other end. But we wouldn't have if they hadn't got behind us. There's been times for all of us where it's been a bit tough over the years, but now they're reaping the benefits of obviously improved performance on the field and commercially. So it's a great shout out to all of them, and 28,500. That's fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah.
Absolutely, they're the lifeblood of our club, and when we've got our backs to the wall, that's when we know our members are right behind us. They've proved it, with the expulsion and getting us back in the league, but even during the COVID when. They were talking about the very existence of the game being a threat. Our members came out in droves in pledge and supporting the club. So we're very blessed, and, that's why we're always giving back to the members.
Yeah, very good. The thing that I've learnt this week is just about the maturity of our playing squad. So right from the senior players that we've got all the way down to the young guys, they've had a lot thrown at them, especially over the last month in terms of media appearances that they need to do for broadcasters and the NRL, in terms of other promotions that they've got to do. They haven't shirked anything. There's been no complaining. They've just taken everything on the chin. And what they've done too is try and make the experience as best as it can be for the whole squad, but also the other people involved. And the example I use is we had our team photo day, and talking about the members as well, most clubs would take probably 2 team photos, one with the players and then one with the football staff as well. And our guys did that, but then they also did about another 30 photos with our Club 1908 members, who are part of our top tier of membership here at the club, and also some other special people like young Jake Spurtle, who the club has been supporting through a difficult time, suffering from cancer up in Port Macquarie. Him and his mum came down. And the reception that our boys give those members, they clap them in, they cheer them on, they thank them for their membership. You can just see the smile that it puts on those members' faces, and I think that's a real maturity around our squad, that they understand how important the people outside of that small football group are to not only the broader club and the commercial side of things, but to help them win, because it's that passion of the people inside and outside the club that drive them forward. We saw it in 2014, and you can feel it again this year. It's really special amongst that group. So that's what we learnt this week. First of all, we'll go on to our first topic now, our first top 4 topic. I want to ask Ello and Shannon the top 4 players that you have played with. Now, that's a big one. You both had lengthy careers in first grade and in top flight rugby league. Shannon, you mentioned you're an Italian international as well.
Yes,
and also coached the Italian team. Amazing achievement. Well done, mate. But the top 4 players that you guys have played with, I'll start with you, Ello.
Oh, there's a number of them, Jez. I go back to when I started the career. I had Ziggy Niscott in the team who played for New South Wales and captained us, and he was a great inspirational sort of leader too. And being young in the team at that, I think I was about 19 or something, and having a guy of his experience to be able to come in and look after you, not only on the field but off the field, it was he was fantastic. He was a solid player. Unusual to be a captain from the wing, but he ran the ball back well and finished well, and just an inspiration to everyone there. Naming 4 is really difficult, mate. But I go back to, Phil Blake's probably one that comes to mind straight away. I was lucky enough to play with Phil and the Australian schoolboys too when we were younger, and he was just brilliant. He was just a gifted player that could do things other players couldn't do. His chip and chase. And just his broken field running was better than most players around. Who else have we got? The tough blokes in Les Davidson and Dave Boyle and Ian Roberts. They were just, they were great to play alongside. They used to handle all that stuff and leave all the other play to the other guys in the team. But they stood their mark, intimidated opposition packs and that, and they were great to be around. There's one player that I thought was very, very underrated in the team, in the '89 team, and that was Paul Roberts. He doesn't get a lot of accolades for how good he was, but he could play back row, he could play centre. He was a handful for any defensive team to stop. He had good speed. He was a rugged, solid defender. He did a great job for us in that era. So, but I have to pick the top 4.
You probably don't need to narrow it down to 4 if you can't. But I've got to say, some of those names you've said there, not to make you feel old, Ello, but I'm a fraction younger than you, and I'd like to point out for complete transparency that Mark Ellison was my favourite player. When I was a young bloke, I had a little jersey with a number 6 on it, and you mentioned Phil Blake there. He's another player that I remember when I was a kid that was just absolutely electrifying, and when you're kicking the ball out the front of your house and you're trying to chip and chase as a 100-kilo 8-year-old as I was. Wasn't quite as zippy as Blakey, but and had the opportunity to work with him for a short period of time here at the Rabbitohs too back in 2002. A great bloke to go with it. So
it's funny you say that, Jez. When I was playing, I used to practice my goal kicking down at Neill Park quite a bit. And, when we were kids, you'd grow up who you wanted to be as a player, and you'd play in the park against each other. And, I wanted to be Ron Coote when I was growing up and things like that. And you'd hear the kids playing, and, mate, all of them wanted to be Phil Blake, the South Sydney ones. I've never seen so much chipping and chasing in my life at Nagel Park. But, he was a household name at the Rabbitohs when he was here because, we had a really solid team in the late 80s, really rugged. I was named some of the players in it and very hard to get on top of. But he could do things to break games wide open for us.
Yeah.
He was probably as good as anyone I played with.
Yeah. It's great to see so many of those guys still connected with the club as well. We saw David Boyle in at training the other day. He's still looking as fit as ever, and you see Ian Roberts around the place every now and then. It's great to see those guys still connected and still mates.
Yeah, it is good to see them, and that's been great. We've started up getting our Raging Rabbits have come on this, in the last few years and built up great reunions. I mean, some of the reunions we're getting 300 people too, and you catch up with all those guys. It's a great day, and particularly the day where the current players come and meet all the past players. It's a tradition that's been recreated, and I'm sure we'll keep it going for a long, long time. But you talk about Boyley. I mean, I made my debut up at the old Lang Park against Combined Queensland, and Boyley was my roommate that night. So. We might leave it at there. But it was great having you.
What about L.O. Boyley? Like you mentioned, Ian Robertson, Boyley. Like he looks like he's still fit enough to play. It's great how the ex-players, how we've all looked after ourselves post-football.
Yeah, no, Boyley. I mean, I think he's had both. I was only talking the other day. He's had both of his knees reconstructed, or replacement. Sorry, but he's always trained his backside off. Always been super fit. And he's one of his great sayings when he played. He says, "Use your body as a weapon, not a shield." And I thought that was the way he played the game.
Yeah,
you know. And Davo was the same as that. I mean,
I was about to say a bloke that could still play footy. He looks super fit.
Yeah. He's only quiet, Davo. He's off the field. Just one of nature's great gentlemen. He always has been. But when he ran out on that field, my God, the steam be coming out his ears, his nostrils.
Yeah.
And I imagine that gave everyone else confidence.
Well, it did.
When you guys run out knowing that he's with you. I've heard Craig Coleman, Tugger, tell the story all the time. He said, "You do my fighting and I'll do your thinking." Well,
that's it. I mean, Tugger ran the team. Tugger did a great job. But, mate, he's one of the players in the top players I play with as well.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, but those guys just and Ian Roberts, mate, he was probably the fittest player that I played with, and he just kept going and going and going. But they just set the platform for everyone else, and it was an era of intimidation, and that certainly wasn't my sort of expertise in the game, but these guys did all that and let the other guys with different skills get that all happening on the field. It was some great times, and you talk about, I've been here for a long time, but those days when you're playing at the top level and the Rabbitohs are going good, it's a magnificent feeling because the communities around you, they're all supporting you, and it was probably some of the greatest times of my life, to be fair.
Funny story about Blakey. When he was working here in 2002, he had his office upstairs, and the Redfern offices, he was coaching director or something. I can't remember what he was, but he had his little office, and he called me in one day and he said, "Oh, can you help me out with something? I need to send an email." So clearly he wasn't great with the technology, and I thought, no worries, I can help you out with that. And I walk into his office, and dead set, the walls were absolutely wallpapered in yellow Post-it notes. There was not one bit of wall space that you could see. It was just yellow Post-it notes everywhere with phone numbers and email addresses and everything on the walls. And I'm like, "Oh, we got to clean this up for you, Blakey. We can't have this wallpaper here."
Oh, goodness.
Talk about how clever he was on the field. Off the field, he was pretty clever around the dressing rooms too.
Yeah.
Mario used to come to train, and with his, he was always, really well dressed. Mario, credit to him, he always presented himself really well. But Mario would always do extras out on the field, and he'd be the last bloke in the dressing room to have a shower. And probably once a week, Blakey would get into his kit bag before he came in, and he'd cut the crutch out of his underpants. so Muzzer would come back in, have his shower, pull his undies far, and of course, they weren't as supportive as they should have been.
And I can't imagine the Maltese reaction would have been too calm.
No. After about the 27th time, he said, "This is not funny."
Very good. Very good. Shannon, let's have a look at your top 4 players that you've played with.
Yes. Well, I think, one of the most naturally gifted players I played with is Julian O'Neill. He was just a prodigious talent. Everything came naturally to him. He certainly didn't have a great training ethic, but when he did train, actually, he'd when he really put in, he'd lead everybody in the 400s, and even the gym, he was quite strong, and he was just the most naturally gifted footballer I played with, and he was gifted at lots of things, Julian, and football was just one of the many things that Jules was gifted at, and a great guy to boot. So he's probably one of the most naturally and gifted footballers and best footballers I've played with. Elo mentioned at the other end of the continuum, mentioned Les Davidson, one of the toughest, brutal, wasn't about skill, but it was, he was intimidating, and I got to play with Les, and having watched him as a kid, I always idolised him, and I knew the other players feared him. I used to watch him you know, even as a kid, and you could see the runners run, and they divert away when they make eye contact with him. And I noticed when I played beside him, you know, tackling beside him, you probably do twice as many tackles because they step away from him and step into you. They see big Les Davidson or this little fat Italian hobbit over here. I know which one I'd rather run at. So Les is probably in there as well. And then again, in terms of pure ability, Andrew Eddinghausen, I played with him at the Sharks. He was just an amazing player. And, you know, people always talked about him being a pretty boy, and you forget that he was actually quite a robust defender as well, He was a strong defender and a great attacker as well. And
he just used to glide when he ran. He had one of the great, you know, running techniques of any of the players, didn't he, when he was on the field? He
did, yeah, and he great instinct for where it was going to open up. He'd push up on the outside of somebody who could get their hands free. That wasn't me, but some folks had some ability. So he was a great all-round footballer. And then my last one, I wanted to talk about either Preston Campbell or at the other end again in just pure toughness, and I just had to go for him because he's. You know, I played with Les, but even in front of Les, in terms of the toughest blokes I've ever played with, mentally and physically, he stands out, and that's Martin Lang.
I knew you were going to say Marty Lang.
Marty Lang, absolute toughest player. At a different club at the Panthers, we played the Roosters in the grand final. I played in the semi-final. I didn't play in the grand final, but Martin Lang, they had an intimidating pack, you know, Morley, Crocker, Fitzgibbon, Ricketson, and they were renowned for that sort of rush defence. And I knew, because Marty would always take the tough run, and I knew they'd, they knew if they could stop Marty, they could stop our forward pack. And the first run of the game, they kicked off Marty, the ball was fumbled. Marty barely gets back on the field to play. They were rushing him that much, 5 out, gang tackling him every time he ran the ball. And after about 70 minutes, you could see they were just exhausted from just bashing Marty all game, but Marty was still going, and it was a superhuman performance, and but he did that throughout his whole career. So yeah, they're my top 4 Jez.
Having worked with his dad, John, you can see where that toughness comes from, because Johnny Lang was 5'0", probably when he played, probably weighed 60, 70 kilos. But he was a tough little bloke. It was the clips that you've seen of him playing and the stories that we heard from Shane Richardson, who was up there at East Tigers with him, then he came down and played in Sydney and played State of Origin. You could see the way when he was coaching. He when he first got here, he was a football consultant, and he was like your grandfather. He'd call you into his office and he'd tell you stories. Like he'd say, "You got 5 minutes," and he'd be in there for 3.5 hours, be telling you stories. I got to know Watto and everyone else personally, even though I've never met them before in my life, with all his stories. But when he became coach, something switched in him, and you could see the passion and the fire in him, and he'd give it to the players. The great story about him giving it to Dave Taylor in his first game for South, and it's just, you can see where that fire and brimstone in Marty came from his dad.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. JL, great bloke, you know, had a huge, profound impact on my life, but plenty of other footballers who he coached. Here at South, I think his role at South's ascension to 2014 is a little bit understated as well. Madge did such a great job with the squad, and the players were tough. But I think, and Madge was credited for putting that toughness in the side, but I'm sure Lengy played a role too. You know, Lengy had a way of, and they say the same thing about Wayne, and I see it with Wayne, of helping players believe that they are as good as they are. Sometimes you doubt yourself, but you know, if a guy of Wayne Bennett's or John Lang's calibre tells you you can do this, even if you had your own doubts, all of a sudden you believe you could. And I'm sure that toughness Langy had and that competitiveness was part of the foundation for that 2014 win. Not taking anything away from Madge or any of the players as well.
I'd have to agree with you there too, Shannon, because what he did do too was blood some of the younger kids, you know, early, like Clarkey, Peatsy. Dave Tyrrell was only young back there. He put him in the first grade as well. And having that early transition into first grade helped him down the track.
Yep.
You talk about Marty Lang, how tough he was. I remember speaking to Lang about the Penrith Grand Final win. And he said about 3 days before, he said, I was really thinking, how are we going to beat this Roosters team? They were that well prepared. They were the team of the year by a long way, and they had that devastating rush defence, as you said.
And they bashed everybody.
They bashed exactly. And he said I decided on the Wednesday or something that week, the only way we can beat them is to go through them. He said, so that's what we did, and that's exactly what they did in the game. And that was he had that ability to get players to play tough. But he got players to play for him because they liked him.
Yep.
And that was his biggest thing he had, because he cared about people.
Yep. And you know, the players loved it. Like, I love Lenny. You know, I was with him for a long time, about 8 years. But you know, he had a massive impact on their life, not just in footy, but outside of footy. The lessons he learned. He's just a tremendous fellow and a tremendous human being.
It was a bit like back in the day, in the late 80s, when George was coaching us. I mean, George came into that job because they couldn't afford to pay, a coach, and George hadn't had a lot of experience. Technically, he'd put his hand up and say, "Oh, he wasn't the greatest technical coach," but he had that passion. He had some great ideas. Don't get me wrong, but everyone just loved him, wanted to play for him, and that's a big thing as a coach.
Yep.
And he had a massive influence on that team back then.
You can see that in spades with Wayne, but you can also see it with JD. There's a lot of respect from those boys for JD. You can see it in him. He's going to be a good coach come next year. Again,
but it's not just always about footy. And that's what we see. Obviously, I get to see it every day, but it's the players want to know what I do outside of footy. I want to know what they do. Not prying, but just it's a great conversation starter, and you get to see them every day. We've got a squad and a staff there that care about each other, which is really good.
The banter between you and Reno Daily Yellow is one of the highlights for me, going over to Redfern, just into each other. I love it.
He never stops. He never stops.
You give him plenty of material to work with.
Very good. Well, we might wrap up our first topic there. We'll be back in just a moment. Now, one of your departments, Shannon, is merchandise, and the official Rabbitohs merchandise store. It's now located down at the Heffron Park Tennis Centre on Bunnerong Road in Maroubra. It's palatial down there. It's absolutely massive. Matty Parrison working down there in the shoebox. But they've still got all the key Rabbitohs gear. So if you're looking for a jersey, a polo shirt, T-shirt, hat, flag, anything like that, anything you can think of, head down there to Heffron Park to see Matty and the team down there, and they'll help you out. It's right near where the new high performance centre's going to be built down at Heffron Park as well, so you can see the area that the new high performance centre and community centre is going to be built in. Or you can shop online at shop.rabbitohs.com.au, but all the new gear's starting to come in, isn't it, Shan?
Spot on. The 2021 range is all in there, so you can get in there. And as you said, Jez, it's a stake in the ground in terms of our movement, where our high performance centre will be completed at the end of 2022. That's why we put the merch store out there. So encourage everyone to get out and have a look at our merchandise and where our new high performance centre is going to be. And
for all the big boys and girls, it's clear they've got stuff that we can fit anyone.
Yes, indeed. They have to put 2 tags on my shirt to fit all the X's. But
don't be that hard on yourself, Shannon.
That's my wife's job, isn't it?
Very good. All right, head down to Heffron Park, or jump online at shop.rabbitohs.com.au for anything that you need in Rabbitohs merchandise. Time for topic number 2. The first one was the top 4 players you played with. Now I want to know about the top 4 players that you played against. And I guess you could reframe that as guys that you would have loved to have played with but didn't have the opportunity, but you played against them. So we'll go first with you, Elo, again.
It's a really good question, Jeremy. And it wasn't, just giving a bit of thought this morning and yesterday. You don't realise probably till you finish playing how many good players you did play against. And you're probably thinking the same when you were putting it through your mind. And back in the 80s, early 90s when I played, there were some magnificent players in the game. And, there was Wally Lewis, he was in the team that I debuted against. In that same team was Meninga and Miles, Bob Lindner, Belcher.
God, that must have been intimidating, Ella. Did you feel that before you ran out there looking at these names of these Queenslanders?
I sort of did, but I was that excited about playing that I just couldn't wait to get on. But what I did find intimidating was that Dean Rampling called Henry in the first scrum, and I didn't know what Henry was.
You're like, who's this bloke, Henry?
Where's Henry? And then next minute it's on in the first scrum of the game. So yeah, that was that was fun.
The good news is Henry's young bloke. He's a now sponsor of ours. Young Henry.
Young Henry.
Oh, you had me there.
Hey,
I didn't know where you were going with that.
we might cut that one. That's pretty obvious.
We've got a top 4 dad jokes coming up later in the year.
That's our joke of the week. No, I like that.
We're going to do better than that, surely.
We got to do a podcast from there, from the Young Henry's Brewery one day. What about that?
One day.
Oh, it's fantastic. If you haven't been out there, it's fantastic. Just outside of Newtown, got a local bar. They've got the best beers in Sydney and Australia probably, and it's a great day out, so great idea.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Just have to get onto the accounts team for that invoice now for their free ad.
Yeah.
As I said, I work for Crunch. I work for Product.
He's been paid by the case. Don't worry about that. No, I get it. Well, as I said, Wally Lewis probably one of the great players that I did play against. I mean, you wouldn't get an argument from that. But then you look at the great 5'8" of the era, Brett Kenny. Like, there was always the argument, who should be the Australian 5'8" back then when Lewis played against Kenny. So they were two great players. It's funny. I remember a story. When I was playing at Cronulla, I was playing 5'8", and I was marking Kenny, and I wasn't quite as quick as him, as you probably realise. But you think about the game. Shannon, you're playing, and when you're playing, you think about it. Leading up and what am I going to do? So I thought I'll just get outside him from the scrum so I can keep him, close to the pack if everyone comes, So he, and you'd have to run a long way to get around me, that's for sure.
He did have
Not
one
so
of the
much
best sticks in the game.
Marathon runner. Was it Kenyan?
I'll do the jokes, mate, all right? No, so anyway, I was thinking about it all night anyway, and then what I didn't bank on was that he'd bring Eric Growth in off the blind side wing at the scrum.
He was someone I wanted to ask you about, Ello, because I'd be thinking back into your era, what was it like playing against a bloke like him that was fast, massive, run over the top of you, run around you? Like, how would you even prepare to try and play against a bloke like Eric Growth?
I'll probably answer the end of my story will answer that question for you. I didn't think about him coming in. Anyway, I've gone up to tackle. Kenny's brought him in, and I hadn't really seen him till late. I've gone to tackle around the legs. He's knocked me straight out.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
I used to look at guys like Dave Taylor and Scott Geddes and Sam Burgess that had come to our place, and I'm thinking, I've never played at that level, but where would I even aim to tackle these blokes? Particularly Dave Taylor. He was like the trunk of a 100-year-old tree. Like, he was just thick and just a big human. His hands were big. Everything was big about him, and I'm just thinking, where would you even consider tackling him, apart from around the noggin?
It's a different era now. Like when I was playing, you'd tackle them around the legs.
Yeah.
The really big guys, wouldn't you? You go low because you weren't taught to tackle up high. So we try and tackle around that. It's different now though.
Yeah.
But I still think there's some players in the game someone's got to go low to stop them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that big Seaver from Parramatta, the winger,
yeah.
Moko Seaver, like blokes like him bringing the ball back. Sometimes you just got to go low.
Yeah, I heard Joey saying on one of the broadcasts, he said, they're a strong runner when you hear the guys in the defensive line yelling out, "He's yours!"
That's good.
That was my favourite.
So getting back, Jez, a few other players like. Yeah, Wally Lewis is obviously. Brett Kenny was outstanding. Another underrated player and a great player, Mario, I hate me for saying this, but Benny Elias was, I reckon, one of the greatest footballers of his time.
Yeah.
He was one of the smartest, skillful players in the game. And, him and Mario used to rip into each other. But I'd seen him obviously younger. I played against him at schoolboys and then played, like Blakey, played with him in the Australian schoolboys team. But he changed the way hookers played the game. And, people used to think he wasn't tough, but he was tough, mate. He was tough, and everyone would try and bash him, but he just got on with it, mate. He'd be at market telling someone, I'm going to run right, and so they'd think they're going to run left, so he'd just run right. I told you, you know what I mean? Like so, but he was
the old double trick.
yeah.
Makes my head hurt,
And he's in the top four, I'd say.
Yeah, right.
And in the lock position, Bradley Clyde was a fantastic player too. Just the work he did and how strong he was and things like that. And in that Canberra team, you had Laurie Daley.
Yeah.
You had Belcher popped up again too from, he played in that first team for the combined Brisbane, and then he's down in Canberra playing in the 80s. They had, and one of the hardest players to tackle was that Chicka Ferguson. The winger, because, you're talking about tackling big guys. They were probably easier than guys like him that could just dart everywhere and you just couldn't catch them. But, I was lucky enough to play against the great Steve Rogers. He played at the back end of his career at St George. I remember playing against him in a semi-final at the SCG. That's what I mean. There were some unbelievable players. I mean, you got Blocker Roach there too. Ellery Hanley came out to play for the Tigers. So we're just blessed in that area with the era, and of course in our own team. I went through that before our own players. There was that many players there too. So I'd have to say Wally Lewis. I think Ben Elias. Steve Rogers, not that I played against him long, but he's one of the greats of the game. And Brett Kenny.
Yeah. What a list.
I reckon,
pretty good.
Yeah, they were the
list.
One of the guys you mentioned there, Blocker, a lot of people don't realise Blocker actually coached here.
Yeah.
In our President's Cup when I was a kid coming through, he coached, and he was a great coach for a hooker, young hooker like me. He could teach me so many little tricks. But what I loved was his disdain for the backs. He used to say the only good thing about having wingers in your side is knowing the other side has to have them as well. I remember fitness was Tuesday nights. When we'd all be out there doing the 400s at Redfern Oval, and you do your set of 6 or 400s. He said, "All right, forwards in there." And all the backs said, "All right, you guys got another 6 400." I said, "How come they only have to do 6 400s?" He says, "They do their work on the weekends. You do your work on Tuesday nights."
Blocker reminds me a lot of Mario. I've had a little bit to do with Block through his work in the media, and he reminds me a lot of Mario. When you see him down at training, muzzle come down and he stalks the sideline, doesn't he? He walks along and he's staring it all down. You can see he just wants one more go. He just wants one more go.
There it is.
And Blocker's the same. He came down to training. It'd be 2 seasons ago now. Came down with Warren Smith and checked out some of the players, and he looked across me on stage. He goes, "You blokes are going to have a good year this year," and you could just see it in his eyes, like they started rolling like poker machines. He wants one more run, one more tackle.
It's funny you say. It's a hard thing to transition when you first stop playing, isn't it? Like, because it's something you've done since you were a kid.
Yeah.
And you get there, and like being on the sideline now, you look back, it's a different game. But you sometimes think, well, we used to do that. We used to do it every week, and you couldn't wait for game day. And I think it's something that's always in you, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I was going to ask, because I've asked lots of ex-players this, and it was certainly the case with me, and I'm barely an ex-player. I played a lot more reserve grade than I did first grade. But any player that's played a lot of football, I asked this question about when you stop playing. For months and even years afterwards, you occasionally still have dreams that you're having a game of football. It's almost like a form of, it's probably over-exaggerated, but like PTSD. You still, and like even to this day, I might only have them once every 6 months. Did you have that?
I did. I performed a lot better in my dreams than I did on the footy field too, Shannon.
You know what? I still couldn't get in first grade either. I still picked in reserve grade every week. It's my dream.
No, you do. You do, mate. And it's probably one thing I do try and get when I talk to the players. I mean, not that I talk to them very often, but sometimes having a conversation, you sometimes forget what you're doing at the time.
Yep.
Putting the old head on young shoulders and things like that. And I, the biggest thing for me was not winning the grand final.
Yep.
And I still remember. I would have loved to do that, but obviously we can't now. But you look back and you think, would I have done a few things differently at the time if I'd have thought more about it? Whereas I used to just think more about just winning that week.
Yep.
you know, and then you get to the semis and the prelims, and obviously, you know, but I never actually thought about winning the comp back then. I just thought about winning that game as a lead. But I think probably these days players have got better goal setting mechanisms than what they did then. What we did then. But
I think it's also just a maturity thing. Like when you're first in first grade, you're just a bit more conscious of your own game, and as you said, just winning that week. It's not until you get the back end of your career you can sort of think at a more macro higher level, and I think that's just a experience thing, and that's probably why the more experienced players are the ones that win comps. But I just want to pull you up on one thing there, Ella. You said you haven't won a comp. Mate, you were instrumental in that 2014 grand final win. You weren't on the field, but you were certainly on the sideline, and you were on the grass, and you were responsible for the 17 guys that were on the field and bringing them more to the club and helping them to develop who they were and ultimately to bring us premiership. So, mate, you're as much a part of that win in 2014 as anyone.
Yeah, my mate, was obviously a great day. It's a great day, and it was exciting.
It was a great couple of weeks.
I was going to say, what about the couple of weeks after, Ella?
I can't remember it.
That was only a 50-week year that year. 2 of them had disappeared.
It nearly cost me my marriage, that's for sure.
Big shout out to Raylene Ellison for putting up with this bloke in that period. Shannon, let's hear your top 4 players that you played against.
Okay. I want to start with a couple of Rabbitohs that I played with them when they weren't at the Rabbitohs, but they were great Rabbitohs, great juniors, and actually both came through the same junior league side, so it goes to show how strong our junior league is. And this guy's underrated. He revolutionised sort of the ball playing lock, I think, and that's Jim Dimick. He played New South Wales, played for Australia. I have to declare a bias. He lived next door to me in Woolloomooloo, and I saw him develop all the way as a kid, but he was you know, he's of Tongan descent as well as Maltese descent, half Maltese, half. So he's big, strong, got that robust Polynesian build, but very skillful as well. And he revolutionised that lock and played a bit of 5'8" in his career after that as well. And he was tough and skillful. So Jim, you know, and rightfully so, was an international. Then the other one, who played in the same junior league side as him, and he was my favourite as a kid, probably still my favourite now. You spoke about, Ben Elias revolutionising hookers. I think this guy was the sort of generation after Ben Elias as a hooker, but revolutionised hooker. Everyone gives the credit to Steve Walters, but Jim Sedaris was in the same era. But Jimmy was only 18, and he revolutionised that tough running, that hooker that sort of ran from dummy half, like Steve Walters, like Kieran Cunningham, who played for the UK. But Jimmy Sedaris was 18 and mixing it up with men. He got Dally M Hooker of the Year, or I think he might have got Rookie of the Year in his first year. He was just, he was a revolution.
That was in '89. I mean, Mario moved to the back row to accommodate him, and as a 18-year-old or something, he just revolutionised the game.
He did.
At the end of that season, we went on a trip away, and Jimmy didn't have a passport, so he said, "What do I do?" He wet behind the ears. So I said, "Come on, we'll go down and get it sorted." And he needed a birth certificate, thing like that first, and you got to get other documents and that as well. So we went down the birth desk down there, just as you're getting into town. I don't know what street it's in. Anyways, amazing story. Walked in there, and up on the board was obituaries, right? And he said, "Oh, well, what's obituaries?" I said, "Oh, mate, they're just people that passed away yesterday." He said, "Oh, that's amazing. They've all died in alphabetical order."
That's very good. That's very good. I actually need to give you one of these.
I think you were spinning bow ties.
Very good.
Very. Can I just divert for 1 second, talk about the stories and footballers with, not being the sharpest tools in the shed. A former South player. I'm sure the hardcore Rabbitohs remember this guy, Peter Driscoll, blonde hair, tough running second rower, and just tough, and would do 30 hit-ups a game, 40 tackles a game, and just go. And a lovely guy. Pete and I actually went to school together and come to grade together, and I'm still friends with Pete. He's from Corindai, just outside of Tamworth, and he settled back there and got a beautiful family. But Pete and I, when we were the young blokes coming into first grade, it was the ARL year before the Super League bun fight and all that kind of stuff. And there used to be a side, the Western Reds, over in Perth. And Pete and I are excited to be picked in first grade, and we're going over there, and we're sitting at the boarding gate waiting to get on. And everyone's talking about the game, and Pete said, "I reckon they go out after it." And I said, "Yeah." And the boy said, "Oh, Pete, did you change your money over to?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "To Western Australian money. Did you change your money over at the currency exchange?" I said, "Oh, we're just about to get on the plane. Why are you telling me now? Why didn't you tell me 20 minutes ago?" I said, "Pete, settle down." I explained it to him, you know. Anyway.
That's unlike you.
Yeah, I should have ran on with it.
Normally you would have said, "Look, give it to me, I'll go change it for you."
Right. Yeah. Gee, the exchange rate was poor.
Yeah. Honest Catholic school boy.
Did you have that leather bag with you?
That one's for another day. But the funny thing is, about 4 weeks later, we're going over to play the Warriors in New Zealand. We're sitting at the boarding gate waiting to go, and one of the boys said, "Pete, I hope you remember to change your money over this time." He said, "You won't get me twice."
That's very good. Oh, very good. Oh, very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Shout out to my great mate Peter Driscoll, fantastic fella.
Yeah.
So we're 2 players down.
Oh, sorry. I'll speed this up. I did divert. Okay. Andrew Johns, he just had it all. In attack, he could goal kickers like Hazem El Masri, general play kick like Ricky Stewart. He could put guys through gaps. He could run the ball. He could hit like a second rower. Like, his defence was just amazing, and his all-round game sense. I've got to say, when I didn't play many first grade, played a lot more reserve grade than I did first grade, but I sort of was never intimidated against anyone I played or in awe of anyone. But just having seen Andrew and play, he was one of the guys that I just considered myself privileged to be on the same park as he. I just think, to this day, I think he's the best player that's ever laced on a boot. So
yeah, mate, he's one of the great players in our game.
Yeah,
that's ever been in our game. There's no doubt.
Yeah, so I had to have him in there, and then of a similar vein in terms of just all round greatness is Laurie Daley. I played when I was at South, and we were playing down there in Canberra one time, and I didn't mind defending in the middle because you got blokes almost half a metre beside you. And as you said, it's easier tackling forward. So they charge up, you just plant your feet and put one on their back. But I used to hate being caught, a bit wide of the ruck one-on-one. And we're playing against Raiders, and somehow they shifted the ball across. I'm trying to work my way towards the middle, and I got caught on the edge of the ruck. And Laurie Daley could see me, and he's calling the ball because he could see the whites in my eyes. One-on-one. And he's called the ball, and I'm thinking, please don't give the ball to Laurie Daley. Please don't give the. They give the ball to Laurie Daley. He goes out. I go out. Bang! He steps in. He beats me. Goes straight through, and he goes straight through. And Mullins is pushing up on the inside. Loz gets to the fullback, passes it to Mullins. Referee rules a forward pass, and there's no try on it. I stopped that try.
You blinded him with the whites of your eyes.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Very good. Well, that was a good little trip back in time there. We'll be back in just a moment. Now, another one for Shannon's crew, Rabbitohs Plus. We kicked that off in the last month or so. It's a new initiative from the Rabbitohs which provides services for Rabbitohs members and supporters that they use every day. So from mobile phone plans to travel deals, home and contents insurance, credit cards, car insurance, home loans, all those sorts of essentials that you use every day. Rabbitohs Plus can provide you and your family with some great deals. So all you need to do to check it all out is go to plus.rabbitohs.com.au. And it's a fantastic initiative, and it was born out of COVID.
Yes, that's right, Jez. I guess, as we said, it was a scary time for the game in terms of financial sustainability for all clubs. We're probably in a better position than most, but we were looking at alternative revenue streams for the clubs that could ensure our sustainability moving forwards. We knew we could count on the support of our members, but we thought another way to ensure the financial sustainability of our club and look after members in the same way was I guess some commissionable products that the members are using every day. So we work with people like, or organisations like, Community First Credit Union. So got market leading credit card offers and lowest interest rate and lowest charges, and basically make sure our members get a really good product and service, but also provide a passive revenue stream for the club. So it's been great. We've only just launched it, and the support of the members so far has been overwhelming. It's great products, great services, really good prices. The members win and the club wins as a result.
Fantastic. Plus.rabbitohs.com.au to check out all the offers from Rabbitohs Plus. Now, time's catching up with us a little bit, so we might just need to whip through this last topic. It's the top 4 reasons why you've dedicated your working life to rugby league. Now, both of you have spent a lot of your working life in rugby league, but you've both spent time away from it as well. I'm sort of the opposite. When I first came into South, I've never left. Dabbled a little bit in cricket over summers, but Ello, you were selling wardrobes, and Shannon, you worked with, I think it was Clubs New South Wales. So you moved outside of rugby league, but you both came back because of your love of the game. So be interested to understand the top 4 things as to why you've stuck with rugby league throughout your life.
I think just the love of the game is the first thing. I started playing when I was 5, and I still remember we used to play. I used to play in the convent schools comp at Moore Park of a Saturday morning, and I was fortunate that my grandparents lived in Selwyn Street at Paddington. So after the game, we'd kick off at 9:30. After the game, we'd head over to Nan and Pop's, have a shower, have lunch, then we'd head to the cricket ground and watch the match of the day. So you'd watch the 3 grades start at midday, and that was my Saturday. And then if I go with the family, with my brother and my parents, and then after the game you'd rush home, we'd go back to Nan and Pop's for dinner, and then we watched the replay. So that was part of my life, and I just loved it. I mean, it's really that's where I learnt to add up when I was young, watching the footy, putting a try and a goal together, things like that. That's the love of the game is the reason. The second one's just the camaraderie and of being around, people, and it was even more enjoyable, I think, in the era that I played, that because you worked during the day and then you come and you couldn't wait to see the guys at night time. And, there are a lot of guys would be out on the tools all day and then come to train in the afternoon. And, we didn't train anywhere near as long or as hard as what the guys do now. But, that camaraderie of, 3 times a week getting to see the boys and train with them. Obviously, you're having a laugh all the time. A couple of beers after training, then you're home. So camaraderie is good. The giving back is a big one for me, because – you talk about the time I spent at the club here, Jeremy, and what the game's done for me. It's been just my life really for most of it, and it's I like giving back. I love seeing young kids come through. I love seeing our juniors come through, and I love watching them. I watched Cameron Murray play when he was 4.5. He played in my son's team, and I watched him come right through all the way, and other guys like Renault and Alex Johnson, I didn't see them quite as early, and particularly this club, because we talk about our members being passionate, but if you're part of the South Sydney, you're part of it, and it has a mystique about it that I've been a couple of other clubs and they were great, but there's something about this club that's different, and those things have made it outstanding, and probably the last thing is the community aspect of it. I know, particularly when Madge came to the club, he wanted to make that a big focus of getting out in the community, and I fortunate enough I had a lot of contacts that we'd get, like surf clubs and all places like that where community's big. We'd had players going down in the Nippers on Sundays, and we do a bit of training down at South Maroubra or Clovelly. Clovelly was good because we got into the heart of the Roosters supporters. My old mate Russ Byrne was on the
They don't have
was
a
on the
heart,
board.
Booster supporters.
Sorry, the Heartland. Sorry, no, sorry.
They
I said
almost
that wrong.
pass as human, almost.
But just doing that with the community and it's it's fantastic sometimes. Just if you go out shopping or someone will stop you and want to talk about the Rabbitohs and things like that, and it's something that it's not annoying because it's just it's part of it and people are passionate about it. So it's not hard. I mean, obviously the job now has its challenges at times, and there's not everything goes exactly how you want it to, but it's not hard to get out of bed of a day to come and work at this place.
No, you're right. I assume yours are pretty similar.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I just want to, one point Jez mentioned reminded me of the great line from Andrew Denton at the Red and Green Ball. He's talking about going to the game at Redfern, watching it with your family, then going home watching the replay. I remember Andrew Denton's line at a Red and Green Ball. He said, you're a Rabbitohs, hardcore Rabbitohs supporter when you go out and you watch them Redfern Oval and they hang on for a 2-point lead, but you're frightened to go home and watch the replay in case they blow it the second time.
That's a great line.
You talk about Redfern. I remember Redfern Oval as a kid.
Yes.
It was, you go and watch the games there and, you just get on the hill and the waft of just the liniment would come across the ground and the canteen and, it was
fantastic.
They'd be selling peanuts up in the, remember that bloke used to sell the peanuts?
Yes.
He sells roses now at some of the pubs around the area.
He does.
Someone's told me that.
Hello, another one of my favourite. I love the Rabbitohs, and another one is food. And do you remember the hot dogs with the crunchy bread rolls they had?
Yes.
On the western side, that was fantastic too. So I remember Redfern Oval fondly. Some of it on the field as well. So.
So that's Shannon's first reason to work in rugby league is the crunchy hot dogs.
Sorry,
we digress.
Sorry, Jez, I certainly do. Yeah, you're right, Jez. My reasons are similar to Elias. I absolutely love the game, and what I love about it is its power to inspire. I think, I remember when we won the comp in 2014 and bringing the trophy back to the team, and in this area there's a lot of wharfies and baggage handlers and garbos, and we use the expression everyone from garbos to Governor Generals are Rabbitohs members and supporters. That is the case. The Governor Generals are mad Rabbitoh and everyone in between. And I saw grown, tough men crying when we brought that trophy back after 43 years. And there's no other realm in your life that brings something, that kind of emotion and passion to you. And I think Elo's right. It is particular to our club, that passion. You never, when anybody refers to a Rabbitohs supporter or member, they always say, he's a mad Rabbitohs supporter or member. They always talk about how avid they are. We don't have any other type. It's just we just 100% or not, or they're not. If you're a Rabbitoh, you're hooked. So it's the power to inspire and give people's life, a purpose. It's not an exaggeration to say that our club represent the aspirations of a lot of people. We were, there's a lot of people, Redfern, Waterloo and surrounds out to La Perouse live in public housing, lower socioeconomic areas, but we're their team and we represent them, and we were kicked out of the competition. We were gone, and through people power we marched and we got back in and we struggled for a long, long time. And then in 2014, by the time we won the comp, we were the best club on the field. We were the best club off the, biggest membership base, highest merchandise sales, highest rating team. We'd gone from, the basement to the penthouse, and that represented the aspirations for a lot of people. And there's not many things in your life that bring that. So that's the power to inspire, and the third thing is the power to transform lives. I see it every day with South Cares. They do transformational programs in people who've been for generations long-term unemployed into employment. That changes not only that person's life but their family's life and future generations. And because we can work with government and our sponsors to provide employment opportunities for the community, South Cares do great jobs around employment, around school engagement. Kids, they're working, one of their school engagement programs with kids who are marginalised and at risk of disengaging from school. Over 90% of those kids go on to complete a HSC, which changes all of their options. So the power to transform lives is the third one. And then the fourth one is just giving back. The game's given me so much, both on the field. Not many people know this story, but playing in the junior league. I was playing Harold Matts, and I'd left school and was working as a labourer. I grew up in the public housing of Woolloomooloo, and I was helping Mum out. I left school before I finished school, and the club said to me, "Look, Shannon, I think you got a bit of a brain in your head. You're captaining our SG ball side next year. If you knuckle down to your education, we'll pay for your education." And I was worried about, I was helping Mum out a bit financially with what I was earning, and they gave me a little bit of money. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was enough to help Mum along. As a result, I got to go back and get a really good education at Champagnat, at Pagewood Marist as it was then.
That's the year I left teaching when he came to the school. Good option. I can't put up with this bloke.
Well played. Well played. I don't blame you, Ella. But because of football, they gave me. I got a HSC. I went on and got a degree and some postgrad studies, and it changed the trajectory of my life. As a result, the opportunities I can afford my kids. But it hasn't just done it for me. It's doing it every day for hundreds and hundreds of people. Our club's particularly strong at it. So giving back. So the 4 reasons, again, I love the game. It provides inspiration, the power to transform lives, and giving back there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Jez, what are your 4 reasons?
Well, I had similar reasons, but the one that sort of sat differently, and it's probably from a more selfish point of view as to why I've stayed in the game, is because it's fun.
Yes.
Like, I see so many of my mates that work at banks or insurance. My missus works at an insurance company. And I sit there and I'm thinking, where's the fun in it? Like, I just think we get to ride the roller coaster every week. And if you have a win, the next week's so great. And all the members are happy, and we follow the social media. Everyone's happy online. And the next week we might have a loss and everyone's filthy and everyone's, the world's about to end. You ride that roller coaster. And when you experience a season like 2014, and you talk about the giving back and the way it can change people's lives, that was the one for me. When particularly, so that grand final week, I was ready for. I'm a big planner. I like to make sure I've got everything planned out and I know what's going to happen. I had everything planned out until the day after the grand final, when we were going to have the Redfern Oval celebration, everyone coming back. But I wasn't ready for the rest of it. So Richo called us and said, right, we've been offered the keys to the city of Randwick, we've been offered the keys to the city of Sydney, we've been offered a trip up the Harbour Bridge with the trophy, we've been offered a open-top bus trip all through the South Sydney territory right up to Town Hall in the city. And
that was amazing.
And you need to make sure it happens. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not ready for this. I wasn't ready for this, but you know what? We got it done. And the things that I remember, going up Coogee Bay Road through Coogee, and you went past a school and there were all these 5-year-olds out the front clapping, and then 100 metres up the road was a retirement village and all these 80 and 90-year-olds clapping us on. And that's what you talk about, our community and the difference it make. I remember coming back towards Redfern, up on Phillip Street, and there were 5 people with tubas and trumpets and trombones playing Glory to Glory to South Sydney as we drove past.
It's one of my memories of it too. That was amazing.
Me being charged with babysitting Ben Teo when we picked him up halfway round. Also on Coogee Bay Road.
I think I'd been drinking with him, Jess.
the look from Richard going, you babysit him. Walking him up the stairs to Town Hall, trying not to let him too close to Clover Moor. It was just unbelievable to see what a difference. And when the boys went up the bridge with the trophy and the Channel 9 helicopters up there and all the media that wanted to go up with them and working with the guys at Sydney Bridge Club to make all that happen, you just knew that it was something special. Like the Roosters had success, the Bulldogs had success over the 10 years previous as Sydney clubs. They weren't climbing the bridge with the trophy. They weren't getting the keys to the city off the Lord Mayor of Sydney. They weren't being put on open-top bus rides right through their local area and up through the city so that everyone could see them. And the crowd that was at Town Hall in the city was amazing.
And the irony of it, it wasn't all that long ago in the history of the club. Yes. We've been at the same place for a different reason.
Exactly right. And so that's the things for me, that there's fun experiences that we have. I've met so many people that I would never have had the opportunity to meet and interact with and work with. And I guess it's a more selfish reason, but for me, it's just fun.
Yes.
Like I look at people that bust themselves to earn whatever they want to earn during their lives, and good luck to them if that's what they want to do. And traditionally in sport, you're not earning the sort of money you could out with some of the bigger companies, but you don't have anywhere near the fun,
No.
and you don't have anywhere near the care for your job that you do. So
We are blessed, absolutely.
absolutely, it is a privilege.
Absolutely.
To work for this club.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. So that was a great chat there, boys. We'll be back in just a second. As we wind down here, one of the things we're going to do each week is have a trivia question for our members and supporters listening on to the podcast. So we won't have the answer this week. We'll give you the answer next week. So the first one this week. So when South Sydney played our final home game at Redfern Oval as our main home ground in 1987, who was it that scored the final points for the Rabbitohs, and how did they score them? Now, we'll give you a bit of a clue. The final score was Canberra 26, South Sydney 2. So that probably gives you a clue as to how the points were scored. But I want to know if anyone knows who scored those points back in 1987. So we'll reveal the answer next week. So have a think about it, gents, and we'll come back next week and give you the answer and pump out another question.
Well, all I know is I didn't let Laurie Daley in for a try that day.
But you probably had about 4 crunchy hot dogs.
Yes, I did. That's funny because it's true.
Very good. We'll be back in a moment. Now, of course, What If are the proud presenting partners of the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast and the Rabbitohs Podcast Network itself. And if you're looking for your next epic holiday, maybe a long weekend with your mates, or you really need to get to our next game, of course, we play Melbourne in round 1, then it's time to What If it. What If has great deals on accommodation, flights, car hire and more. Plus, because they're the official travel partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, you can head to whatif.com.au/Rabbitohs and use the promo code Rabbitohs15. That's Rabbitohs in all capital letters and the numbers 15, and you'll save 15% on selected hotels. Now, conditions apply for that, but What If? It's Aussie for travel, and wouldn't we love to see as many as we can of our members and supporters down there in Melbourne for that kick-off against the Premiers?
It'd be great. I mean, it's I don't think there's going to be many restrictions either. It looks like the Victorian government's going to lift restrictions on Friday if they keep their COVID count down. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure all the members and fans are too.
Yeah, What If a great partner, aren't they, Shannon?
They certainly are. They're also the major sponsor of our pathway sites. They've made that possible. You know, the fact that we now have the whole integrated pathway from pretty much Harold Matthews in the under-17s as it is now, right into NRL. You know, Harold Matthews, SG Ball, Jersey Flag into our New South Wales Cup team, into the NRL. It's fantastic, and What If have made that possible. So I encourage all of our members to utilise What If and that discount, because by supporting What If, you're also supporting the club.
Speaking of pathways, great start to the season from our SG Ball team, undefeated after 3 games.
It's fantastic.
They've played two of the top teams in Penrith and Manly. So, good start for them.
It is very good, very good. Righto, we'll be back with our final segment just in a moment. I've been looking forward to this since we've been talking about doing this podcast. It is Ello's Joke of the Week. Lay it on us, Ello.
Well, I wish it was X-rated, Jez. I think we could come up with a few better ones, but there was a meeting of the past, the present, and the future, and it was tense.
Oh, very good.
He was an English teacher.
Very good. I like it. Nice and clean too.
Yeah.
Everyone in the family can enjoy that one.
Tense, T-E-N-T-S.
Very good. Yeah. And I'm sure you can probably get one of those on whatif.com in their accommodation segment as well. If you want to go to a caravan park, very good, Ello. Shannon, next week it's your turn for Shannon's Joke of the Week. So you're going to have to clean up some of the ones that we hear around the office every now
I'm looking forward to that one you said.
I've got a similar one, actually. There was a meeting between a TP and a wigwam. It was too tense.
Did you just make that up?
That's spelled T-E-N-S-E.
Oh, very good. Right, we'll wrap things up in just a moment. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Ello, for joining me this morning here on our first episode. I hope you've enjoyed the last hour we've spent together, had a bit of a laugh, and delved back into both of your careers.
It's good fun. I mean, it gave us a good idea to remember what it was all about back then, and the questions were good, Jess, so well put together, mate.
Very good.
It was a lot of fun, and in terms of delving back into our career in this show actually went longer than my career, so I really enjoyed it.
Very good, very good. Well, if you're out there listening, you can contact us with topic suggestions by filling out the form at rabbitohs.com.au/podcast. You can also tweet us at SSFC Rabbitohs and use the hashtag Top4Podcast. We'll get your suggestions there, but probably the easiest way is to fill out that form on rabbitohs.com.au/podcast. Also, if you're listening to the podcast around the place, take a photo of where you're listening to us. We'd love to see where you're listening from all around the world. Don't forget to write us a glowing review and give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, if you believe we should get a 5-star rating. I already gave us one before we did the show, so I'm on the ball. And make sure you hit that subscribe button to automatically add our podcast to your feed every week. Don't forget to tune into our other podcasts on the Rabbitohs Podcast Network, including our regular media conferences leading up to games. The first one we had on there was the re-signing of Latrell Mitchell earlier this week, which was fantastic for the club. And those pre-game podcasts include the absolutely hilarious press conferences by our head coach, Wayne Bennett. It's one not to miss. We're also going to have the audio version of our Rabbitohs Insider video that we put on the website each week. Don't forget to tune in to Chaps, Mavo and Brownie on the Rabbitohs Radio podcast. They're going to talk more footy, the current footy stuff. A couple of past players there in Mavo and Brownie as well, two of your ex-teammates, Ello from that 89 era, and they're a lot of fun as well. They get some of the current players on and they get some guests on and talk a lot of footy and have a good laugh. So great to have them as part of the Rabbitohs podcast this year. And we'll be back next week with more from the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast. Of course, it's powered by the team at Audio Technica, our flash headphones that we've got on today. They've done the job today and proudly presented by What If. So we'll see you next week.
Okay, Jess, look forward to it.
Thanks, Jez. Thanks for a fun morning.
No worries. Thank you to everyone for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Support the club and visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs to book your next trip. Don't forget to use the code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off select hotels. Conditions apply. What If? It's Aussie for travel. Please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Up the Rabbitohs.